to the No BS Short-Term Rental Podcast, an unfiltered look into the global vacation and short-term rental industry.
I'm Mateo Bradford.
And I'm John Stokinger.
And this is our podcast. We bring the right people to the table at the right time, giving you an inside view and take on the short-term rental industry like no other podcast can.
Good morning, Mateo.
Good morning, John.
How are you?
Fantastic. I'm all right, man. I'm doing all right, man. I'm okay. I'm back in San Francisco this week. Crazy week out here for a memorial out here with family, but it's been a good week, man. Being out in the Bay, that's originally where I'm from. So I'm originally from San Francisco. So a lot of family out here. Dad lives out here, but out here with my mom to come full circle, man, to put a good friend and family member to rest. And so it's been a good week, man, but I'm excited to get back into this, man. And we got a great guest this week. I'm excited to dig in. I think we're going to have a really great conversation with a unique and great personality in our industry that I hope we can share with the world today. It's going to be a good episode. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm excited. Episode 22, man. We're here.
Episode 22.
Again, 22. They're just chugging along. It's hard to believe we're knocking one out every week. This week's pretty special for me.
Wait, why is it special for you? I can't imagine.
No. You don't even know what I'm saying. You don't even know what I'm going to say, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. The most reason it's special is 20 years married tomorrow. 20th anniversary.
See, I had something snarky I was going to say.
I know you were. That's why I had to come in.
You just totally killed it.
So I'm pretty excited. But
congrats to you and your better half, man. Like that is a huge.
Yeah, congrats to her for putting up with me for 20 plus years.
Well, that's exactly where I was going. Of course, that's what I was gonna say. That's why I was led with your better half.
Yeah. Oh yeah. She ups the ante.
She's come on, man. You're harder than yourself. I won't even dig into the kitchen, but you're a good man. She's lucky to have you as well. So, but congratulations to you both, man. That's a great milestone.
Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and introduce our guest. We'll dive into that. We'll kind of talk about some other things. We'll sprinkle it in and here and there. I'm super excited for today's episode.
Yeah, I am too. So this episode, we're gonna dig into this direct booking world, man, and get into this conversation. I had the pleasure of meeting during one of my trips across the pond. God, it seems like I always want to say, oh, this was last year, but damn, this is like 2 years ago now. This is almost going on like 2 years ago. So STR World, you have probably seen his posts on LinkedIn, my page, STR News. We got the one and only Damian Sheridan on our show today. And he is what I consider, when I think of the direct booking movement in the short-term rental, short-term accommodation, hospitality space, there are very few names that come to mind. But this is one of the ones that is forefront in terms of not just creating a movement, but actually really building something that's not just kind of like an industry fad. Like this is something he's building a true movement. He's building momentum. He's building a conference. He's putting action behind this idea of, the direct booking and the benefit that it has to really all the stakeholders, the majority of the stakeholders in this space, owners and managers. The one and only. It's Damian Sheridan. I'm not going to take too long to introduce you, man, because I want you to introduce yourself. Some of the things that we do in this space, like my friends and my people, I'm a little biased because I appreciate the work they do. And I think you're fascinating, and through our conversations that we've been able to have, really learning about your story, how you got into this space, and appreciating the momentum. Like when I met you, and we were in Spain, I was still working for Rented at the time, and was on the vendor side of the business. And as we were just saying, kind of in this time lapse that we've seen, like a lot of transitions has happened, and coming from the manager side, can I honestly say I didn't really appreciate why there was this huge push for the direct booking side until I really started, getting my chops in the management side of the business and hands-on, and really understanding why that it's such an important aspect of the business, to be able to run and operate effectively, and without kind of the chains and tools of, I mean, without kind of the tethers to certain kind of, I'll say, pillars of our business that seem to be required for them to be successful, or that narrative of that they're required to be successful today. So we're gonna dig into this. I'm excited. Welcome, Damian. How are you, man?
I'm good, guys. Thank you so much. What a build up. Wow. I feel like this has been a snowball that's gone on for about 5 or 10 minutes. And I'm like, I can't match up with this. This is amazing. Thank you so much, guys. And John, congratulations to you, my friend. That's great news. She's a very lucky woman.
Yeah, she is. Thank you.
Tell me to say that.
We're gonna take that payment later, John. Don't worry.
Thank you, guys. Wow, yeah, hey, I made it onto the. No, yes, I'm really honored to be here. And yeah, well, wow, where do I start? Yeah, so Mateo, we met in Barcelona, 2 years ago. That's crazy.
Wow.
Sometimes I didn't even know if things are 1 year ago or 3 years ago or whatever. But that was at a conference and in Barcelona, and this is it. Conferences are just coming back. We had our one last week, another one in London, one in France. You guys in the US, you've got a few going on at the moment. Verma International next week, I believe. So exciting times. It's such a pleasure to be back out there meeting people again, and just talking again, not just to a screen. Is such an amazing experience. So I appreciate conferences. That's the probably the bigger picture at the moment, rather than even trying to get leads or sales or anything like this. But so in terms of me, where do I start? I'll give you
start at the beginning, brother. How did you get into this space?
I won't tell you what year I was born. How did I get into this space? I am down in southern Spain at the moment. I have an apartment here that I bought off plan in 2003. So pretty much been in the space since then. When I first rented out my property here, the same property, still cleaning this morning, and renting out. So that's what 18 years or so now I've been involved in the space.
Wow.
And I think those of us who were in the space at that time kind of know a very different era, and one that wasn't completely dominated by about 3 or 4 big players. And we're going to come on to this, obviously, in light of the direct booking movement. But it was a simpler time. It wasn't the industry wasn't as anywhere near as big as it is now. We didn't have this technology, the software, anything to help us. I was still using print advertising. If anyone could even get their heads around that, it was a different era. And all bookings were direct. Very few were brought to you by any OTAs or anything like that. So, but look, Airbnb have changed the game, and I think we're probably going to discuss OTAs and what an amazing job they do. I am not anti-OTA at all. Yeah. I think they provide a wonderful service. They're at the core of our whole offering, of our whole industry, and I think the direct booking movement just plays alongside it. And it's something for people to look at as an alternative.
So 18 years ago, you started this with just renting one, and then and then that kind of got your feet wet a little bit. And then where did it go from there?
So in terms of direct bookings, I'll go back a little bit. In about 2012, I was working in London at a business travel company. Travel management. I was doing business development. I hated the job. It was burning me out. I was traveling 3 hours a day. It was a corporate rat race, just a horrible job that I didn't enjoy. And I thought there's got to be more to life than this. I guess, there's probably quite a few of us and some of your listeners who will be able to relate to that. And I just thought, hey, what can I do that actually is going to be a bit meaningful? And at the time, I'd been working on some websites, business travel websites, and I thought, let's try and get a grasp of SEO. And SEO was a very different game then as well. But how to rank websites, and this is something I was starting to do with some of my the companies I worked for. So I just threw myself into that for the next 2 years to try and build myself a bit of a niche in terms of SEO for vacation rentals, which is effectively what happened and which is what I still do. I work with property management companies on their SEO, so their organic ranking, how to feature higher on search engines, primarily Google. And so it was really about 3 years ago, whilst working with some clients, where some of them asked me, hey, can you help us with some branding? Can you help us with some social media marketing? And I said, no, I can't do that. That's not what I do. But I know some people, I had a decent network. I know some people who can. And that really just sparked a little idea in my head to think, is there an opportunity to bring people together in the form of an event or in the form of some platform or something like this, where we can all help each other as part of a community? So yeah, so that, again, in some ways that feels like it was 6 months ago. Other ways it feels like it was about 6 years ago. It's been so crazy over the last while. But really, a summary of that is that kind of led to the idea of the Book Direct show, which we've had 3 volumes of now, 2 in person and 1 online. And really the whole premise is just helping property management companies, owners, B&B managers, etc., just really get a grasp of how they can possibly generate more direct bookings and just reduce that reliance on 3 or 4 big players. We all know their names, the ones who dominate the industry and who pretty much take all the money that's out there.
Yeah, speaking of one of those, maybe I'm not one of the bears now, but first, actually, before we get to that, your conference, the Book Direct show, most recent, just happened a week and a half ago. Yeah. I mean, it just happened, and it was it the first of 3?
Yeah.
Because I know I have colleagues here in the US that came over, and they were boom, boom, boom. They were just just nonstop for a week and a half. And I was like, wow, I had definitely some fear of missing out. I was bummed I wasn't there, With that said, tell me about, or tell us about the conference. I know what I get excited about going to a show, and it's just that camaraderie. It's the talking. It isn't necessarily meeting with the vendors, but there's some positive to that. And as a vendor, that's hard for me to even say, but it's deeper than that. Tell me about the conference and what the vibe was and everyone's reception of it.
So we had 3 conferences in Europe last week before last. Oh, my head's spinning. I can't. Just a short while ago. So we had the Book Direct show in London at Tobacco Dock, followed by a day later at the same venue, the Short Stay Summit, which was part of the Short Stay show previously. And we had the Vacation Rental World Summit, Antonio's event, which was in Annecy in France. So all in the same week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So a lot of people were traveling to each, and we had a lot of people coming from the US as well. And it was so great. It was, people were excited to see each other again after so long, 2 years. It was pretty, it was quite joyous at times. And, there were a lot of sponsors and vendors at all 3 events. But I think, it wasn't necessarily for them the first time out about selling and getting leads. It was more just about being there. Yeah, a bit of brand awareness, but just seeing people again, and just that positivity in mind was I think this time out was more important than anything else. Now, thing is, at our conference, we pride ourselves very heavily upon the content that we produce.
Right.
And we spend many months deliberating, myself and Deborah Labby, right. We spend many months on, communicating with potential speakers, the speakers who actually do get confirmed, about what they're going to speak about. Is it, how relevant is it to generating direct bookings, etc. So there's a lot of time and effort that goes into this. But at the same time, we knew, hands up, that probably people meeting each other again was going to be more important than learning, that the educational value. So we had all of the talks recorded, so everyone's got, access to those thereafter. But it was great. It was fun. It was fun to see each other again. And I think that, that's the most probably important message of the week. Next year will probably be different, and we hope travel is going to open up much more. It's great that Europeans can, as of next month or early November, I think, travel to the US again. So we hope, travel is going to be freer next year, and we can all see each other again. I can meet you two guys again at some point in 2022.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Did you? I don't know where I was going with this. When I went to our first real decent sized conference that we went to was DARM, Data Revenue Management Conference in where was that? That was in
Charleston.
Thank you. So that was a pretty great show. But I mean, the biggest thing for me was getting there. It was on top of the camaraderie and just it was like, oh man, we weathered this storm. Yeah. And there's that overall, there's still a lot to do. There's still a lot, further to go. And there's so much learning to, I noticed that on top of just, getting together, there was a ton of learning because the world has changed so much in this year and a half, 2 years, that even if you didn't really want to, the main point of you going was to just kind of meet up and do that. There's a lot of learning that happened because there was so much new. And how are we handling this? We've talked about this in previous podcasts, is the shortage of workers. And I'm not sure if in Spain you're running into in Europe in general, you're running into the same problems we are having here in the US, but the shortage of housekeepers and just anyone willing to go ahead and work. And a lot of it was our government going ahead and throwing a ton of money at people to not work and to stay home. But was that an issue, did you see that as an issue, in the past year and a half, or is that not necessarily such a thing over across the pond?
Yeah, it's absolutely an issue. Yeah, big problem. Cleaning, especially in short-term rentals here in Europe, it's a major problem for companies who have got a number of properties, 30, 40, 50 plus. It's a real problem now, whereby they actually are trying to hold back on their inventory. They can't push it out as much as they can because of the lack of cleaning out there. So yeah, big problem. Just to follow up on what you were saying, John, in terms of, we've weathered the storm. I've worked with people, and I know there are people who actually haven't weathered this storm, sadly. Yep. I think we should, give them all a big shout out as well, because people have had to, change jobs, move into new things, and it's been, it's been tough in a way that I can't imagine for some people. So, whilst there's a celebration here for us and for those who have made it, I think we always should remember those who haven't, they haven't passed away or anything like that, but these have been tough times. So big shout out to everyone. No,
great point. Absolutely great point. I mean, it's, with the consolidation and needing to find a new work and the layoffs and it's been rough, and depending on your market. We've talked about this a lot. The eastern seaboard here in the US and anywhere in the drive-to destination just exploded. But those that were, landlocked, and those that couldn't, Hawaii had struggled here in the US for a long time. Well, the Caribbean is still struggling, depending on, in Europe, there's lots of areas, when you're not able to cross borders, and all of your travel is, interstate, or intercountry. You can't really, they're all staycations. So, and then how do you pivot from that? And how do you go ahead and market and do all the different things? And if all your eggs were in that international travel basket, you're in a much harder situation.
Yeah. It's a really good point. All your eggs being in one basket, because I think, and this probably teases up quite nicely for this conversation about OTAs, because a lot of people do have those 3 or 4 eggs in that basket, and they rely on that for everything. And I think, as of last March 2020, when we realized, I can say this on this podcast, oh shit, we are in trouble here, because they've everything's, the availability challenges are done. All we're doing is refunding. I've worked with a couple of companies, and 1 or 2 who went under, but all they were doing was processing refunds for 2 months and had to bring in staff to do this. That's really, really tough. So it's something that I will never forget, and just seeing that just how it's hard to even describe, but how brutal the process was for so many people. So yeah, always mindful of that. Anyway,
having to hire to go ahead and figure out how to refund to lose more money. It's
Can you imagine?
Imagine.
Yeah. But hey, here we are. As you say, those of us who have been fortunate enough to get through it, here we are. We're in a good place, and we've had, especially in Europe, and I've seen the data to back this up. We've had the time to work on our businesses and to explore new avenues, new routes to bookings. Perhaps at a time when people thought, hey, this is not sustainable. What if this happens again? This could easily happen again, or there could be some other disease, some other, ash cloud, volcanoes, something that could change the world. So we have to be mindful of that, and we have to think, right, we need plan Bs, Cs, and Ds. And the book direct movement is a big part of that, and ways just to explore how we can regain. And 2 words I always say: control and independence. The biggest 2 words as part of the direct booking movement. It's retaining that control and independence over our own business, because after all, it's not Airbnb's business, it's not booking.com, it's not Expedia's business, it's ours. And I think we're all a bit guilty of forgetting that sometimes, in the pursuit of transactions. And we also forget about guests. That we just look at figures, we look at numbers, we listen out for that ching coming in all several times a day, and there's more to building our own business than that.
100%. Without guests and without homeowners, you got nothing. And those are unfortunately, those are the 2 things that are the most important. And they are the first to get off the importance list when we're talking about increasing revenue. And, and again, revenue, we've had this conversation before, isn't necessarily, it's profitability is what we should be looking at. But, I think it always comes back to looking at your roots and looking at, why you built what you built, why you're doing what you're doing. I love the control and independence. I wrote that down, actually. I think it's great. And, talk to us about, you're talking about this direct, the book direct movement here, and, and we've talked about putting all the eggs in one basket here. So talk about diversifying it's not necessarily your portfolio, but diversifying how you're putting it out there, and how we talked about OTAs here. How do you suggest? And this isn't this isn't a tips or tricks podcast, but I still think that there's some valuable information here for someone that is leading, or one of the leaders of this movement. What is a good mix in your eyes? And if you were, for your business, if you had to go ahead and use OTAs, where would you like to go? How would you like to cut them off? Is there a way when you'd like to cut them off? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
Well, look, I don't think anybody in their right mind should be looking to cut OTAs out of their business. That's highly irresponsible, and you are going to be hit financially. The impact of that is going to be pretty serious. They do too much. They have such huge power within our business, and which is not necessarily a bad thing. They, the likes of Booking.com spend billions every year on pay-per-click. They are out there trying, and sometimes it's, they can have some kind of strategies which aren't necessarily fair, but nevertheless, they do spend a lot of money to get the eyeballs, to get bookings our way. So they provide an amazing service, and they provide us with bookings. So, hey, who doesn't want that? We all want that.
Right.
However, for me, the direct booking movement, and I must say, actually, I did not start this movement at all. I have to put my hands up here. I'm just helping this movement push along. Amy Highnote, I give her, big shout out to Amy Highnote. She started the Book Direct Day, and she's really got people's head around this idea. And all I'm doing is just helping that idea push a little bit forward. But for me, you know what? There's no optimal mix. I was speaking at a panel at the Short Stay Summit about this, and there's no optimal mix. For some people, it might be 99% OTA bookings, 1% direct, and that's fine. So long as you have an awareness of do you actually want to try and get direct bookings? For some people, it doesn't work. Some people don't want to take payment themselves, so it's much easier to use Airbnb or a platform, and that's fine. Whatever works for you is the important thing. But for those of us who perhaps are, maybe you might have 5 or 10 properties when this starts to become a full-time job, or you're working in a property management company, then it's got to be an option, and it's got to be something to be considered to in terms of milestones as well. It's, it could be 5%. Quite often we're looking at an average of between 10 and 20% direct bookings from that property managers generate, which is still pretty small. There's huge room for improvement here, but there's no right or wrong answer. I think it's really just exploring that there are avenues out there. There are so many strategies that we can all undertake just to help ourselves. We don't have to rely upon these few booking platforms. Yeah, and there's so many easy things. You asked me perhaps about some easy little tips potentially we can do. We the majority of your listeners will have had previous bookers, previous guests. These are the easiest guests to get back to your property.
That low-hanging fruit.
Such low-hanging fruit. I mean, it's basically just here. But communication, people, a lot of smaller companies potentially are not liaising with those guests enough. We're not telling them, what's going on. Do we know why they came in the first place? Were they there for an anniversary, for a birthday? Do they have their little pet Fido with them? These are all things that we can keep a track of in our database and know and keep in contact, in regular contact. It doesn't even need to be every week or two. It can just be once a month or whatever, but make sure you're speaking to them. These are the ones who will come back, and these are the easiest guests to please. So things like this, really easy. Google My Business is a free platform as well to use to highlight and get your brand across on search engines, on Google. There are so many free things that we can be doing to help ourselves. It doesn't even need to involve a lot of money. And these are the things that I highlight to say, look, explore them at least. If they're for you, they're for you. If they're not, they're not.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things that you just put out there. I think is very important to kind of bookmark all of this, right? Is this movement is about empowerment of people's business. When even myself, when I first would talk to Debbie and Amy or you, and we would have conversations around how does this even work, right? Because when you think of Book Direct in the concept of direct booking, from a strategic business, viewpoint, it makes sense, right? The more you can control the flow that comes into your business, control your interaction with your customer, and ultimately that transaction, ideally, in fantasy world, right? Everyone would want 100% direct bookings, right? With no middlemen, but that's just not the way that the world works. Our industry works within that space. And I'm glad to hear, it kind of comes from you, because a lot of people, like to get behind the OTAs and rant and rave. We don't need them. We don't want them. Like, we hate their rules. But it's like, God, yeah, we do need them. They are partners within this space. And, the reality is they drive a humongous portion of revenue for our business. And for some people and some managers, hosts and others, they are the drivers of their business solely. But, being able to, I've always, and what I've come to think around direct strategy, both as someone who manages now and also, someone who looks at how this plays into the industry, is this is a revenue management play, but it's also a strategic business play. And what you really do in this movement is empower managers, hosts, and others to kind of roll into the narrative that we've been seeing the industry transform into, which is the professionalization of this space. how you interact, how you grow your business, using all tools available, and essentially doing everything that was within your power to service your guests and to grow and drive your business. And that's what I see your movement doing, giving people tools, saying, hey, this isn't the only way. We do understand that this is core and essential to your business today, but here are some other things that you can do in this space that you do actually have control around, that you do actually, and John and I say, yeah, we don't do the tips and tricks on the show, but like a lot of what you guys can provide within that space is, hey, these are the things that have worked for other managers or other people in this space like you that consistently grow this aspect of their business. Yeah. And I think that's hugely important, because I think prior I haven't seen that as a central core organized voice, within our industry. And it's getting louder and louder. Amy's screaming it, you guys are screaming it. Now we have conferences surrounding it, and there's this momentum building around this concept of, we'll just say, business owners and people who are running businesses to be able to have the tools and strategy to do it more effectively. And it's going to be super interesting now coming out of this pandemic as to, what people have done. We see that there's been a lot, we've seen the ups and downs. We've seen, markets that have had a lot of success, and we've seen others that have struggled. And I think we're going to learn a lot from people, as we get back together. Hey, how did you do this? How did this work for you? How was this time for you? And it's a long way of getting into kind of a question I wanted to ask you was just, what was that feedback? What did you hear when you started getting back together, and you started really driving, driving the movement again? What was the feedback from people? What were they wanting to know? Is there a common question like that people are coming and saying, hey, this is something we're really struggling with? I think John brought up like personnel and HR and getting getting the ops right on the ground. But was there something that you saw, or a common theme that the participants and managers were talking about in terms of their businesses that really stood out to you?
The biggest question on the day was probably, where's the bar? I think people were so excited.
Fact. Rightly so. Yeah.
The thing is, you highlighted a really important phrase there, Matteo, in things that are within our power. And there are so many things that we, as the Book Direct show, Book Direct Network, myself and Deborah and others are trying to just let people know and realize that there are so many things that are actionable and actually quite easy to do. SEO is not one of them. I'm an SEO. I work with property management companies. It takes months and years of and a lot of technical know-how. It's not one of those things. However, there are many very actionable strategies that we can all undertake. And I think it's really just seeing when property management companies get that, and they can kind of see, hey, yeah, I can do that. I can easily do that. And I never would have even thought about that. These are the golden moments you kind of think, hey, there's not just 1, 2, or 3 things. There are hundreds of things that we can do to generate more direct bookings. And that's in line with, you talk about professionalization. This is a major thing now. We all need our guests to see us in the right light, and because otherwise they're never going to come back. Repeat bookings is one of the biggest drivers of direct bookings. This is how, it's to get a booking over the line over an OTA is extremely difficult, and I think it's an assumption from a lot of people think, yeah, we can do that. We can get the direct booking straight in off our website. It's really, really difficult. However, when you get that booking in from an OTA, really the onus is on you. If that guest is coming back to stay with you, you need to let them know why they need to stay with you again. We had a great talk by Chris Taylor of Get Your Guide.
Guest View Guide.
Guest View Guide.
Right.
And he mentioned a statistic about how 80% of people within 2 months will have forgotten where they stayed, the name of their brand. And then, they're going to go back to Airbnb or Booking or Expedia. So these are the things we need to highlight. We need people as property management companies to remember that we have to get our brand across. And even if that is just making sure you've got a nice, some business cards within your home, just to remind people of your brand with a 10% off next time,
Right.
or something just to remind them of your service when they leave. Follow-up emails, for
Right.
example.
I mean, for me personally, for someone that hasn't been, I've never been a property manager. I've worked in the space, but I've never worn those shoes. But I sold until this week. I've been selling a top property management software here in the U.S. Track. And the biggest thing when I'm talking to property managers, and this isn't necessarily an assumption, but from my understanding, that having the ability to if you want to go ahead and get direct bookings, and it's really important to you, is to utilize that CRM and to utilize an email marketing campaigns and own that guest. And so having a CRM that ties directly into the property management software. And if you want to do good direct bookings and you have more than 10 properties, you need to have a solid property management software. I mean, and an amazing website. And have this like seamless integration between the booking engine, the website, and the property manager software, but utilizing those email marketing campaigns. And it could be a constant contact, it could be a MailChimp, or it can be an integral one, using them to go ahead and empowering your whoever, if you're a host and you're answering the phone or you're replying to emails, sending out forms, capturing that information. You mentioned it earlier, Damian, understanding, hey, why were you here? Was it a girls' weekend? Was it a golf outing? Was it your anniversary? When's your birthday? Understand these guests and then touch them at a minimum 6 months prior to when they booked the year before.
Yeah.
If they're,
this is something that's really important. Yeah. When did they book before? That's when they're going to be booking again. There
absolutely.
are here that we can work on.
And then start keeping track of that. That in July they do a family outing, right? But in September, the husband and his boys, they do a golf outing. So go ahead and annotate this, capture it. And if you have a good CRM that goes ahead and you own this, and then you can go ahead and curate email marketing campaigns that not only drives them to repeat book, but upcharge them, get them to stay in that nicer place. Go ahead and like own your guests. And there's so many, and again, we're getting into tips and tricks again, but it really is important, and it's that easy. It's if you're empowering your staff or yourself to go ahead and really like understand who your guest is, it's that easy to get them to come back.
Yeah.
And what's really important with that is you don't necessarily need to be discounting prices as well. When you've got your brand across, when your guest knows you, or when you've provided a really good service, you don't have to say to them necessarily 10% off next time or anything. You've got them then. And that's, I think, one of the assumptions with a direct booking movement is that we need to, we have the best price. That should always be the way. We shouldn't be undercut by OTAs, but we don't have to vastly reduce our prices in a race to the bottom to try and get those bookings. And I think if our previous guests understand the quality of our brand, of our service, of us, us as people, this is something I always say, like, don't forget to let them know that we're real people here. It's not just a faceless organization. Show them who you are. Show them your About Us page. Show them some pictures. Do some video. Let them know that you're real people, because we love that. People love people. We want to know that we're staying in a legitimate, authentic, and a kind and friendly company. And let them know that. Give yourself a better chance.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
As the Book Direct Show, we had a panel this year, which was kind of driven by me. We had four panelists. They're talking about inclusivity as well within the short-term rental industry. And Mateo, you and I have kind of had a few emails back and forth about this on LinkedIn, but this is something that I really do want to stress to a lot of people out there: the importance of your potential guests knowing how inclusive you are as a company, as an owner, that your doors are open to everyone. And whilst
Right.
we hands up, a lot of us will say, well, everyone, we may not want a group of 18-year-old guys turning up over a weekend. We all have some kind of bias, but
Yep.
but let people know that we are embracing. And as myself, I have encountered quite a bit of prejudice on some of the major platforms when trying to book, and I know it's only because of one reason. And for those who are just listening to this, I have darker skin. Right. That would be the reason. But there are people who from the gay community as well. There are people who have perhaps surnames of a certain origin. There are people, women. There are so many cultures, demographics, people out there who are marginalized, and I think it's a really important thing for us to make sure that our guests, our potential guests, know that whoever they are welcome, and you can't get that across on an OTA, and that's a little opportunity for us all as property managers. So, these are one of the myriad of strategies that we're trying to help PMCs with. But that's just a little thought to throw out there.
No, I absolutely love that. And it's a great, segue into, we're talking about diversity and we're talking about inclusion. It's a great segue. I just want to go ahead and mention, next week, starting, less than a week from now on Sunday, at VRMA International, the Diversity and Inclusion Subcommittee is putting on a workshop, a boot camp of sorts on that Sunday, 2 to 5. Is that correct, Mateo, in San Antonio? Yeah. So whoever is, and I'll let Mateo talk about the speaker, but we have a great guest coming. I'm arriving on Saturday. So that Sunday afternoon, we're going to go ahead and do that. And then on Tuesday, truly, Mateo and I are co-moderating diversity and inclusion, continuing the discussion, a panel at VRMA. And we have amazing guests, on the myriad of with people of color. We have, LGBTQ, the whole panel is absolutely amazing, and we're going to go ahead and continue that discussion. We started over a year and a half ago now. Truly, it's been that long that we started all this, and it's kind of what spurred everything, at least for on the VRMA side of things, to kind of bring recognition to what should have been brought recognition to years and years and years ago, since the beginning. But unfortunately, it hasn't. So we're super stoked to actually get that recognition. And I want, Mateo can jump in about it. And truly, let's talk about it a little bit, Damian as well. Have you personally, you've talked about, the color of your skin, but have you been, you said that, for booking, you've been, had some issues, but, can you talk about that a little bit, or, or other people know that you've run into and communicated with?
Yeah, sure. I have no problem talking about that. Yeah. So, for example, in the days when Airbnb, when you made a reservation, your picture was available for the host to see prior to them changing that procedure. I had a couple of reservation requests rejected, only to see the availability calendar then change to be back open, like just a couple of hours later, and even for my partner to inquire, and she has light skin, to be told, yep, no problem, you can book, which is quite it's hard to even attribute a word to it, whether it's humiliating, demoralizing, or vexing, every emotion, and there are thousands of people that go through this, and it's it could just even be their surname. I know people who've got certain surnames, and sometimes people ask, oh, do you speak English? Like, yeah, right. Just what? Yeah. These are the questions, these are the things that the obstacles that people come across. And I think it's just worth highlighting to the thousands of property managers out there that there are marginalized people out there, and just let them know. Have a few icons, on your website, or just have an inclusion page or something to the effect of letting your prospective guests know, hey, whoever you are, you're welcome. And it's not about tolerance. It's about actually fully embracing your guest. Yeah.
Robert,
I think that starts with tolerance, though, too. Like, at the end of the day, it is about tolerance, and it is about why it's important to your business. And, as John mentioned, we're doing this whole boot camp to, continue the conversation and continue education. Because what we found out is, I don't think a lot of people understand, until they hear stories like yours, or they hear, other stories of discrimination and other things that exist in our world and their guests experience. Some more frequently than others, but that they do experience. And also knowing that again, when we talk about control, right, and we talk about the things that we can control as business owners and as professionals in this space, it is being aware of that and understanding that what you do has effect. What you don't do also has an effect. And being, conscious and kind of, it's almost like having the emotional intelligence for your business to step back and look and really look at not what you think you're projecting and what you think you're doing, but actually what you're doing or not doing, and the effect that may have on your guests and your business. And so, we're driving conversation, but this is why these conversations are so important. That's why this boot camp is important. That's why our panel is important, because you're not only kind of showing people why, but then you're giving them resources, tools, and tips and tricks on that side to be able to, not here, not on the show, but you are giving them the resources. Because again, like, people may say, oh, wow, I never knew this, or, hey, this is something that I want to make sure that I am doing for my business, but they may not know how, or they may not, understand how to do it effectively. And so I think as an industry and as a community, that for us to be able to come together and truly represent hospitality, which is all welcoming, which is about the guest, regardless of kind of, their identifiers, but creating a welcoming space, that is also good for your business, right, at the end of the day. So no, I think that's hugely important, and we're going to continue that conversation. I think as the world opens back up, Damian, we want to definitely expand in terms of our outreach around DEI in our industry, because it's not just a U.S. thing; this is a global issue, and it's conversations that we should be having across the pond. We should be having here. We should be having holistically and continuously having, if we're really committed to, making this an inclusive space for all, and identifying that, hey, it's not today. And we identify that, and we're working to change that.
And, I think as well, this has not become, but it's perhaps a bit of a taboo topic that people don't necessarily want to talk about it. It's kind of swept under the carpet a little bit, but it needs to be. It can just be seen as an opportunity for everyone. Even if you just, if as of many, I know the vast majority of property management companies, owners out there, we're good people, and but there is an assumption. We assume that our guests will know that we're good people, but there's people out there who don't assume, and they need to know, they need to feel a bit of love. And I think this is one way to do that. And just opening, as you say, a holistic conversation, just opening the door to conversation and to knowledge. I think that's an important thing.
There's so much knowledge to be had, and there's coming as a white man in a predominantly older money, it's here in the US, older money, predominantly white run businesses. Like, I reached out to Mateo and said, like, how do we talk about this? I don't know what we're doing. And just being okay to ask questions. There's nothing wrong with it. And as long as you have a good relationship with someone, you're not coming off ignorant. I'm sure that there's plenty of things that I've said, and Mateo possibly has rolled his eyes and things that I said early on, that, I'm okay to learn. and I want to make myself uncomfortable. And I think that if everyone is okay with making themselves uncomfortable for a moment, they're going to find themselves becoming more comfortable, and they're going to really, open up, like, and maybe they didn't even realize that there was some prejudice. Maybe they had no idea. Maybe, there's a lot of different things that are out there, and just where you brought, how you're brought up, where you're from. Like, are you from a rural area? Are you from an urban area? There's so many different things that, are just kind of embedded into the fabric of our lives. I sound like Days of Our Lives, the fabric of, but you understand what I'm saying. I think there's a ton of things that, if you are open to ask questions and you're open to understand and hear everyone's story, it's going to make you a better person, on the diversity front, but it's also going to make you a better human, and it's going to make you a better business person. Like, there's so much that we're just scratching the surface here, and it's, we can go on forever, and it should go on forever.
That you've hit the nail on the head there, John. There's in terms of questions, let's ask questions. Look, nobody's going to know what it's like for everyone out there, how difficult life can be. I will never understand what it's like to be a woman who faces discrimination, or being part of the LGBTQ community, or someone with accessibility needs, or someone of a particular religion. I'll never understand that. We all just have our own experience, and that's we adapt our opinions based on those experiences. But I think it's the openness to explore, and that's certainly in terms of the whole Book Direct movement. It's just knowing that there are other ways of thinking out there, and I think just embracing those other thoughts and saying, okay, well, it's that, yeah, that's for me, or that's not for me, but at least opening the door to the possibilities of certain ways of thinking.
Absolutely. Let's bring this back to the Book Direct movement. Let's bring it back to Damian here. Talk to us about what's next for you. Where does this go from here? You just came off of like your third conference. Where do you see the rest of 2021 going into 2022, and what's next, man?
I am having a break. That's what's next.
There you go.
I am actually this weekend. I'm seeing some friends that I haven't seen for 2 years, and we are going away a boys' trip, and I can't wait.
Nice.
We've got some exciting plans coming for 2022, and we've got a couple of things in the pipeline which are yet to be announced, but they might involve something in the US next year, so which is kind of exciting.
Nice.
So, you guys will be
you heard it here first.
Yeah, but that's no fun. We want to go over there. Like, we also want to go over there too. Come on, man. No, we're happy to have you, man. I can't wait to hear about that.
Well, yeah. So that's we see big growth in the US, especially. One thing that amazes me with the Book Direct movement, and it's something when I started on this road 2 years ago, I had just assumed that you guys in the US were just way ahead of us, because the industry has generally developed faster in the US and North America than it has in Europe, over the years. However, with direct bookings, it's so the opposite. In Europe, we win hands down in terms of how we've grown our direct bookings certainly over the last 2 years. And I think, in the US, it's a really exciting opportunity for me and our team just to potentially put on a conference there and invite people, and and perhaps even have one day dedicated to those who are starting totally from scratch, who need to know how to put a website together, how to even start to consider which social media platforms should I consider, what things should I even leave till later on, SEO being one of them. Leave that till later on. What free things can I use, what paid things, etc. So I think there's big potential growth for our movement in the US, and I'm pretty excited about that.
I'm excited for you, and I'm excited for those here that want to participate in something like that. I know that I will be there. So that's pretty exciting.
Our MCs.
Yeah, sure. We're okay. That's awesome. I mean, do you have any like personal things you want to go ahead and leave our audience with today? And we have a couple things we want to wrap up with here, but do you have anything personal, like words of wisdom, Damian?
We're gonna start making all of our guests like give like the quotes that motivate their lives at the end, and like what you want to share, and inspiring word of the week that you can leave us with for the industry.
Wow, there's pressure. I think one of the things that one of our panelists said recently is just be kind, and I really like that. It's such a simple idea, but I think I generally find, I try to be as transparent with people as possible, kind of what you see is what you get. But I don't play games. I don't try to be greedy or anything like that. I just generally try to be kind to people and just be, a friendly guy. And I think if perhaps more of us were like that, then the world might be a better place. So I'm not saying be like me, but I'm just saying be kind. So
if you're kind, that's okay. Hey, that's all right. That's all right.
Kind. I love it.
If you're kind, because it fits right in with the movement. It's something simple that everybody can do that will have long-lasting and great effect in the positive column for you and your business. So well said.
Thank you. we didn't script that at all either, so you totally put me on the spot with that.
No, hey, for those of you that have been listening week over week, they all know that none of this is ever scripted.
Yeah.
There's no way in hell that this show can be scripted.
Yeah.
They go, what? That was scripted.
No, Damian, it's been awesome having you on. It's been awesome to get to know you. I didn't have that previous relationship like Mateo had. It's been great getting to know you. Thank you so much for joining us. I let these two know, and I put a little announcement out on LinkedIn. This is my last week with TravelNet Solutions and Track. Actually on Saturday is my official first day at Hopper. So I got hired to thank you. I got hired as a market manager for them to help build out their home side of things here in the US. So I'm working with Danny DeHaas in Spain.
Yep.
Previously at Reynolds United, and he hired me and the team there, and we're building out teams, and we're really building out the home side of the vacation rental side. Currently it is flights and hotels and cars and auto, but where homes should be coming soon. I think November. I mean, we're gonna start having some inventory, and it's gonna grow fast. I'm super excited to be on this team and on the ground floor helping build this. So so that's my news. Staying in the space, but changing homes. And Verma next week. It's right here. I can't wait.
Yeah. We're looking forward to that. I think it's going to be a good one. Kind of exciting, rolling into, I think, what is going to be optimistically a great year. I'm ready. I think just like everyone else is to get open, get back, get at it, in a safe, productive way. And, Varma is going to be great for that. Excited to see everyone that's going to be coming out. Looking forward to just having great conversations, learning a lot. And, we've been doing a lot of work. And I think, something you said earlier, and I think we've talked about a couple of times, John, on the podcast is, people didn't just sit on their hands, over the past year and a half, 2 years. People sat down, they got strategic. And so, I'm really looking forward to re-engaging with a lot of people, finding out, hey, what's different, what's new, where people are at. And I think the growth coming out of this year is going to be tremendous. So that's where I'm sticking my hat, and I'm standing behind that, and excited to get more work done, because we still got a long way to go on a lot of things, but that's exciting.
Absolutely.
And yeah, looking forward to more great conversations, which I'm sure will be coming soon.
Yeah, we're gonna knock out 2 or 3 live no BS short-term rental podcasts at Verma. So as we came out of Darm with Steve Milo, shout out to Steve Milo with that great conversation, we're going to kind of come out of Verma with 2 or 3 We're going to knock out and record there live and in person. So those will be coming out the next few weeks. If you are not subscribed and you're not watching the videos, watch the videos, give it a like. We're on all the podcast channels. Share with your friends. Let us know. This episode, they drop every Thursday. Help us grow. We're excited to be doing what we're doing and keeping able to put this content out. And without you, we're nothing. So truly, it's all about the audience. Damian, thank you so much, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you, guys. Honestly, real honor. And you just good. You know what? Just getting to know friends properly. If anything, that was achieved. So I really enjoyed the chat.
Awesome.